Hello and welcome to this episode of Wait, Just an Infosec. My name is Ed Skoudis, and I am the president of the SANS Technology Institute College. I also am heavily involved in our ranges offerings, and that's what this episode is all about, SANS Cyber Ranges. We have 7 special guests here with us because I want you to hear from these other people in the SANS-averse that make all this stuff happen and make everything work. We've got some great guests for you today. We're going to be talking about various topics associated with ranges, like some of the SANS range offerings that we have that you could take advantage of and use in building your own career. We're going to talk about how the ranges are designed and how they're operated. We'll talk about the experience that people have when they come to a live event with ranges or virtual events online with ranges. I mean, SANS has been in the cyber range business since 2009, and we're constantly iterating, building new range capabilities, giving new experiences to help teach you practical cybersecurity skills that you can use to practice and always be ready for your mission when it comes. We're also going to have a segment of this that's focused on the player's perspective, giving you some ideas and tips and tricks for maximizing the benefit you get when you play cyber ranges, whether they be SANS cyber ranges or maybe other cyber ranges in the industry. So I'm super happy that you've joined us. I'd like to ask our audience, where are you from? We have people that join Wait Just an Infosec from all over the world. I'm honored to be able to host Wait Just an Infosec about once a month or so. You might remember me from past episodes such as the SANS College or maybe Holiday Hack is coming in 3 months. Well, this one is our ranges episode. So where are you all from? I see Philly is here. Philly's in the house. That's about 70 miles from where I'm sitting right now. And I'm sure we have people from far and wide as well. So one of the things that we always do at the start of Wait Just an Infosec is we get an update on news bites. And this week we've got Thomas Wolf, who is going to give us an idea of what's happening in the community, what's happening in the industry. There's some really significant stories. So let me go ahead. Oh, I see we've got somebody from San Antonio, Texas, Los Angeles, Syracuse, wonderful warm Minnesota, Canton, Michigan. That's where my Nana lived, Canton, Michigan. That's very close and dear to my heart. East Turkestan. That's pretty awesome. Washington, D.C., Montreal, New York. You guys are great. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Thomas Wolf, are you ready to take it away?
Once I get myself off mute. Yes, thanks so much, Ed. All right. Good morning, folks. I'm editorial contributor Thomas Wolf, bringing you this week's SANS News Bites. I've got 3 stories for you this week, so let's just jump right in and get started. In our first story, Cisco just released updates to fix a pair of zero-day vulnerabilities. They were being exploited to gain elevated privileges on the devices running Cisco's iOS XE software. The vulnerabilities were first disclosed a few weeks ago, October 16th. Security researchers reported seeing tens of thousands of compromised routers and switches. So folks, get out there, jump on the Cisco website and check out what you need to do to protect yourself. And our second story, last week, SolarWinds, who we all are very well aware of these days, released an update for its Access Rights Manager to address 8 vulnerabilities. Trend Micro's zero-day initiative published details about the vulnerabilities the next day. Definitely check those out. 3 of the vulnerabilities are deemed critical and could totally be exploited to run arbitrary code at the system level. So again, very important that you guys check this out and take care of it if you're running the SolarWinds Access Right Manager. And our last story, it's about Okta, who just recently disclosed the stolen credentials were used to access the company's support case management system. The threat actors were able to view customer HTTP archive files, which were uploaded as part of their support cases. The files sometimes included cookies and session tokens, and these allow threat actors to exploit and impersonate users. Okta has contacted all affected customers and revoked those exposed session tokens. And those are our news bites for this week, folks. Don't forget that you can always get the critical cybersecurity news and commentary that you need by subscribing to the SANS News Bites newsletter. You can do that by going to sans.org/newsbites. Thanks again, folks. I'm your host, Thomas Wolf. I hope to see you again next week.
Thomas, thank you for those stories. There's some really serious stuff going on with this Cisco thing. Please do read News Bites carefully. I hope you subscribe to that mailing list. I read it. It comes out every Tuesday and Friday. I'm one of the editors, but I read it all the time. Really important stuff. You need to defend yourself. With that said, we've got some more people that have joined us in the channel. I see we've got Barbados in the house. Chicago, Illinois is here. Blairstown, New Jersey. Raleigh, North Carolina. Virginia is here. Dallas, Texas. And somebody said, did he say warm Minnesota? I did. It was kind of a joke. But welcome from warm or cold Minnesota. Somebody mentions my good friend Jerry Salinas in the channel. Yes, Jerry's a great friend. And let's go ahead and bring on our next guests. I'd like to introduce them to you as they appear on the screen. Thank you for joining us, Mandy and Carlos. Let me introduce you quickly here. Carlos joined SANS about almost 3 years ago now, and he runs the range business here. He is the leader of the range business. It is a joy for me to be able to work with Carlos. I really respect him tremendously. He's done so many things in his life. He is a military veteran, having served in the Air Force. He has so much great experience. He's done a lot of training on his own. He's trained a lot of FBI agents in the art of cyber. He worked at IBM for many years on their range business. And then we had the good fortune of attracting him to SANS to help bring our range business to the next level. He does great stuff. He also recently founded a new offering in our range business, Executive Cyber Exercises. And I'm hoping Carlos will tell us some more about that. Really, he's a great man, and it's an honor to work with him. In addition to Carlos Carrillo, we're also joined by Mandy Birdie. I first met Mandy, I guess it was about 3 years ago or so. She joined SANS in, was it 2018? 2019. 2019. And Mandy has a heart for cybersecurity as well as for healthcare. And she's combined those two to ensure that our healthcare customers within SANS have great cybersecurity. And the first time I met her, I was very impressed with her. And then since then, she has done great stuff in helping our customers leverage SANS ranges to improve their security capabilities, to make sure they're defending your healthcare information, your medical devices. I mean, all the stuff that keeps us humans healthy and alive and going. Mandy wants to make sure all that stuff is secure by working with our customers. She was promoted last year into some senior leadership in the sales organization in SANS, and she just hasn't missed a beat. In addition to all the range stuff she does, she also speaks in the healthcare industry to help ensure that they're secure, and she knows SANS classes inside and out. Mandy, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, cool.
Appreciate it.
All right, so here we go. Let's dig into SANS range offerings. Maybe I'll start with you, Carlos. Some of our people here know what SANS offers when it comes to the range business. Maybe they played Net Wars at an event, or maybe they've done Holiday Hack, or maybe Boot Up or something like that. But can you kind of tell us overall, what are the SANS range offerings that people can take advantage of?
How much time do I have, Ed?
Just 1 minute, maybe 2.
Well, we have quite a few options. We have options that, customers, if they're looking for a way to build, enhance, validate cybersecurity skills, we have something for you. The majority of our ranges fall under the Net Wars name, and hopefully everybody on the call is familiar with the term Net Wars. But each one of those ranges under the Net Wars umbrella has a specific purpose. And before I dive into each range, I want to mention some of the common attributes across all of our ranges. We like to address content for, from the beginner to all the way to advanced. And we do that through our levels. We have level 1, which is the easiest level, and which progresses all the way up to level 5, which we consider the expert level. Not many folks make it up to level 5, so it's pretty tough. We also like to incorporate hints to help students complete some of the difficult challenges. We don't want students stuck on any given challenges. We want to be able to let them progress through the range. We also offer team play, individual play, or a combination of both. It's your choice. Excuse me. We also offer what we call continuous. So there are a couple of ranges that I'll cover that are also available as a continuous subscription. You sign up for continuous, you get access for 4 months. You can play 24/7, as much or as little as you like. Now on to the ranges themselves. We have core Net Wars, which is by far our most popular range. It's mostly multidisciplinary range, which means it's a variety of content that's appropriate for a wide range of cybersecurity roles. You'll encounter everything from networking to malware analysis to some pen testing challenges, a little bit of everything. Excuse me. We also have Cyber Defense Net Wars, which is specifically focused on cyber defense and threat detection. The cyber defense range challenges players to prevent, defend, analyze increasingly complex and realistic attack scenarios. Everything from simple brute force attacks to solving a ransomware campaign. Next up is Deeper Net Wars. As the name implies, it's strictly deeper content. It's specifically focused on digital forensics. So think incident response, threat hunting, malware analysis. And I should also mention that all of our ranges are tool agnostic. What we want to do is we want to teach you the fundamentals, the skills that you use on the job today, tomorrow, and in the future. On to Grid Net Wars. Now, Grid is focused on industrial control systems and OT, or operational technology. Grid scenarios are designed around the complex nature of distributed wide area control systems found in critical infrastructure. So think the power grid. Moving on to ICS Net Wars. Similar to Grid, as it also focuses on ICS and OT. However, and this is what's really cool about ICS is that it employs a literal cookie factory to unite players to defend the environment against threats aiming to deny players cookies.
I love that. I love it. People come to the SANS events and it's like you could tell where ICS Net Wars is running because you can smell cookies baking.
It smells fantastic.
Yeah.
So if you're an ICS cybersecurity professional that likes cookies, it's for you. Now the next one is near and dear to Mandy's heart, Healthcare Net Wars. Now, Healthcare Net Wars involves technologies and systems found in the medical field. The content includes, but it's not limited to, telemedicine, web app security, medical device IoT security, ransomware analysis, and some decryption as well. And then last but not least, this one's near and dear to my heart, is Boot Up. Boot Up is a straight up, no nonsense capture the flag cyber range. There are no instructor requirements. It's a Jeopardy style event where you just answer questions as fast as you can and try to rack up the highest score. Now, what I haven't mentioned is, scalability. Some of our conferences will have, 100, 200 players at a time. We recently had a Boot Up event where we had, I think, close to 1,500 concurrent players. Yeah. So they definitely do scale.
That's awesome. And we offer these things in a whole variety of different formats. I mean, obviously we run them at SANS events, but in addition to that, RSA conference, the HIMSS conference, some of the B-sides, you'll see these SANS ranges, which is pretty cool. Now, Mandy, speaking of the healthcare networks and such, how are your customers using SANS ranges?
It really depends on the outcome that they're looking for. There's so many different ways that we can utilize the ranges. We can focus on team building, right? When the pandemic hit and everyone went kind of indoors and into their own homes, people were no longer at the water cooler and building that team environment and that relationship. And you can tell when an organization does not work together as a team. When I was in the operating room, I could tell if a group did not work together on a regular basis. It takes longer. It's not seamless. It's disjointed. Same thing in cyber, right? There's a lot of commonalities. So team building was massive for my organizations through the pandemic to bring them together. It also was huge for them for burnout. These individuals are coming here, they're having a blast, but they're still learning. So they're getting a multi approach here because they're getting that skills, they're learning, they're closing those gaps, which is ultimately the important thing for every organization, is to close those skills gaps and those vulnerabilities, but also team building, having a blast, enjoying themselves. So it really kind of depends on the approach that they're looking for, on which range we recommend and how they play, whether it be a live, private tournament or whether we play as a continuous and they get that 4-month, that whole entire time frame, but they can still play that as a tournament. So there's a lot of different pieces that we put together when determining what's the right approach for the customer.
That's great, Mandy. And I appreciate the flexibility that the team builds into this and your ability to talk with customers so that they know what's best for them. Now, Carlos, Mandy mentioned this idea of the private range event. Can you tell us a little more about that? And if somebody was interested in having a range event for their organization, what they would do? I mean, they'd reach out to somebody like Mandy or somebody else in the organization, I'd imagine, or you. Can you tell us about private range events?
It's a well-kept secret, Ed. We sell private events. So any of the networks ranges or the executive cyber exercises, which I'll talk about a little bit later, are available for private events. So all you have to do is reach out to SANS, visit SANS.org, hit the contact sales button at the top right corner, and that'll put you in touch with one of our sales persons, and they'll work with you. But there is, excuse me, I have terrible allergies today. There is your private events are a good way to for team building, have fun, and learn at the same time. Yeah. It's great to see. I like to pop in on networks ranges whenever I'm at a conference, just to see the team interaction. Some folks will pair up their most experienced people with less experienced people on the same team, so that it's a learning event and it's fun. It's a great thing.
That's so cool. URLs. We've got SANS.org/cyber ranges, which is just sort of the general thing with all the networks, events, and things like that are happening, and boot up and such. And then private cyber ranges. So if you want to run one just for your organization, that's there.
Ed, can I mention one more thing?
Sure.
I don't think I mentioned this, but with our private ranges, some of our customers will have all of their contestants, their players in one room, but that's we can accommodate not only 100% on-site, we can also do virtual. We can do a combination of both virtual and on-site. So it really comes down to whatever the customer needs. We can help there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, Mandy, can you tell me your favorite story about a SANS range event that you've been associated with? I know you've put on many of these over the years. What's your favorite story? Yeah.
Probably in terms of the range itself, it's the healthcare range. Obviously, I had a hand in bringing that together with one of my organizations. We partnered together to bring that to fruition. They saw the need. They wanted it to be something that they see every single day, and the challenges that they face every single day. So I'm really proud of that one. I do love that range, but I also really love working with one of my larger organizations. It's kind of like a GPO, and we run a challenge cup. So it's very much like Army Navy, right? There's good-natured smack talk happening, and there's a championship that the CISO gets to have this trophy at the end. But all of these different organizations have come together, and they submit teams that challenge each other. So it's not just one organization, right? These are multiple organizations that are playing against each other in a private setting that we created. And there's a challenge come. So we do this every year, and I love that.
Your thought leadership made that happen. You and some very forward-looking customers, and you made it all come together. It's such a joy to watch them participate in that. Carlos, last question for you here. If you could give me 30 or 45 seconds on it, tell us about the new ECE offerings, the Executive Cyber Exercises that SANS has. I hear they're really cool. I actually sat in one last December. Tell us more about them.
Yeah, so we actually launched ECE, or Executive Cyber Exercises, at RSA this past April, I think it was. And
Not
the
true.
whole reason say again?
We launched it at HIMSS the week before.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry about that, Mandy. Whoops. We launched it at HIMSS in April, the week before RSAC. But anyway, long story short, Executive Cyber Exercises is our way to help the executive suite, boards of directors prepare for a cyber crisis. What we do is we build a custom crisis simulation, and we see how the customer responds. Are they able to address certain things that are going to come up during a cyber crisis, like ransomware attacks? Are they prepared to pay the ransom? Is it legal to pay the ransom? So we run them through all these what if scenarios just to make sure that they're prepared for a cyber crisis that could, unfortunately, that it's pretty common today, but we want to make sure that they're prepared for that.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. Mandy, give me 10 seconds on if you had one piece of advice for an organization considering doing a SANS range event, a private range event, what would it be?
To do it. understand what you want to gain out of it, right? If your ultimate goal is to close those skills gaps or to build the team building aspect of it, but don't be afraid to look into the different options that we have, whether it be the ECE, which really truly is amazing and it showcases a lot of gaps for organizations, or whether it's for the people who are hands on keyboards every single day. But it can provide a lot of value for your organization that goes far beyond just the range itself.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much, Mandy. Thank you, Carlos. So good seeing you. Let's move on to our next panel. The next panel is actually going to be a very interesting one. I think you're going to like it. as we call this in the parlance of the place. This is the C block. This will be the designer's perspective. So joining me now are going to be Tom Hessman, Stacy Dunn, and Jared Folkins. And I'd like to introduce these fine people to you. I've known Tom Hessman for a very long time. Tom started working for me, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago now, Tom, something like that?
It was May 2005, yeah, as an intern.
Oh my God, is that 18 years? Math is hard. That's a long time. And Tom was an intern.
It's a long time.
He was the first person to join the counter hack team. And it's just been amazing, the work that we've been able to participate in together, Tom. Tom does a lot of our coordination and orchestration of NetWars events. He also does a lot of quality assurance work to make sure that the products that we produce on the range perspective are really super high quality. He's amazing at that. So Tom, thank you for joining us here. Next up, we've got Stacy Dunn. And I am not the kind of person who reads somebody's bio. I just kind of improvise, but this is so cool. I got to share this. Stacy Dunn is an artist, gamer, blogger, podcaster, power lifter, and all-around nerd. I'm Ed Skoudis, and I endorse this message. With a passion for everything information security, Stacy currently works as a senior solutions engineer for SANS. So senior solutions engineer, she works with our customers to make sure they're getting great value out of the courses they take, out of their range experience. She has had focus areas of security awareness, digital privacy, cloud security, application developer security, security. And I like this part too. Throughout her career, she's aimed to prioritize the human elements and the creative side of technical topics. That is beautiful. And it's something that's very near and dear to my heart as well. So Stacy, thanks for joining us. And last but certainly not least, we've got Mr. Jared Folkins. Jared Folkins is our DevOps sec engineer that makes all the things work. Which is pretty darn important. So doing things like creating the launcher tool that lets you launch things in our virtual ranges, like your client-side components. He does huge orchestration of the back end of Holiday Hack, which, you know, Jared's getting into like his real heavy time of rotation this year at this time, late October. So we are cranking on Holiday Hack. And Jared is just a delight to work with. We went on a camping trip, 4 or 5 weeks ago now.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was great.
So much fun. We're throwing axes, my friends. We had a great time. So thanks for joining us. So this perspective is sort of the designer operator perspective of ranges. So Tom, I'll start with you. You've worked on SANS ranges for over a decade. How have our offerings evolved in the 10 plus years?
Wow. I mean, they certainly have evolved. I think back to SANS Network Security 2010, when we first launched NetWars in its current form, and think about how much things have changed since then. It's amazing. I mean, we used to have like a completely like in-house VMware type environment. We had really basic like PHP, MySQL type web technologies. And, then over time, we've just, we came up with the newer game engines, the newer web technologies that make things much more interactive, which has been wonderful. We've really evolved the player experience quite a bit since the very beginning. We used to have those this really small, we wanted to keep the download small back in the original, back in the olden times.
I insisted 100 meg or less. 100 meg. Remember that?
Yes, you did.
How do we get a fully functional Linux in 100 meg? Yeah.
And we did it.
Barely.
We did it. It was not the most, it wasn't the most user-friendly experience, but we did the very best we could. Yeah. And since then, we've evolved into full VMs. We've evolved into now completely browser-based stuff, which is super cool. Thanks to Jared's hard work and those that have preceded him, and it's really been amazing stuff to see how this has all come together. Everything. You don't even need a VM anymore. It's all browser-based. You can just you can almost play on a tablet at this point. I mean,
and that's
I think
for
you technically could. I just wouldn't recommend it. But
that's right. That's for the core NetWars offering. Some of the other ones have VM still and evidence and such.
Yes, this is true.
But it is really good, and we are pushing the envelope on that to make the player experience immediate and to leverage the latest cybersecurity technologies and ideas that they need to have. So thank you, Tom. Stacy, you're next. I'd like people to understand your role at SANS better and how you're involved with ranges. So, because I mean, you help make the magic happen. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my bio really encompasses my role too. As you'd mentioned, I'm a senior solutions engineer, which I just tend to summarize as it's just a fancy way of saying I'm a big nerd, right? Because I'm a technical subject matter expert and I wear many, 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 many hats, and I provide many, many different services and solutions, whether that's solving technical problems, giving consultative advice, presenting on certain cybersecurity topics, doing workshops, suggesting course roadmaps. The list, it goes on. I'll just put it that way.
I've asked you, what don't you do when it comes to ranges? Yeah.
Pretty much when it comes to ranges, when it comes to SANS as a whole. You know, if there's something that needs solving, I'm your guy. Or, you know, me and Rich, my counterpart, the other SE, we are your guys. So when it comes to the ranges specifically, what I typically do is I help disseminate information to customers. I'll scope their needs. I will offer demo opportunities, and I provide you and the ranges teams with customer feedback, ideas, and just kind of on my own, I've done my fair share of playing around with NetWars so I can really just paint the picture to any interested parties.
That is awesome. You know, one of the things I really wanted to achieve with this episode of Wait Just an InfoSec is to make sure that people know all of these different people behind the scenes making SANS ranges as great as they are. I mean, yeah, there's some people in the classroom, our wonderful faculty and instructors and such, and then sometimes you'll hear Tom Hessman and such on the back end, but there's so many people that make this stuff work, and I wanted them to get to know you better. So speaking of that, there's Jared Folkens. So hello. Jared, hey, I'd like you to tell us, you've done a lot of range stuff over the last few years. You joined us, what, 2 years ago, 2.5, 3?
Yes. Yep, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
June 2021.
Wow. Tell us about your approach to building range infrastructures for SANS.
Yeah. So what I like to do is I like to get in the headspace of our players and also their leadership. What's going to add value? What's going to teach our players the skills that they need, but put it into just a fun and dynamic environment that's robust so that they can depend on it and have a great time. And one of the things is, you know, picking on Chris Davis because he's around, right?
He's coming up next.
That Davis will give us these amazing challenges, very complex. He's like, you know, pulling stuff out of the weeds. And I like to try to, you know, using algebra, right? Reduce. How can I give this incredible experience, but reduce the complexity on the back end so that it just is consistent and deterministic, where our players will know, hey, if something's going on, the ops folks, they can click a single button, take that whole range down, right? It doesn't have to be just a single host. Everything comes down in a minute, it comes back up, and they're back to where they want to be. So that's one way that I think about it, is to get in the headspace of players.
That is so cool. And you do it. And you do a great job at it. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So Tom, another question for you. Tell us about some of the friendships you've developed over the years with our range participants. I know you've got a bunch of buddies there. I'd love to hear more about that.
Sure. I mean, getting to work with, you know, on these really cool range products over this amount of time, I've had the pleasure of getting to meet and work with so many great people over time. I mean, one of my great examples, of course, is none other than Mr. Chris Elgie, who I met thanks to who I met, you know, thanks to working on Core NetWars. And you know, he now works with us. Shocker, you know, spoiler alert. And you know, I love the guy. He's a sweetheart, and you know, he's someone that I first met in the context of being a competitor. And I mean, even my very best friend, Mary Ellen, you know, I met her working on Holiday Hat. And
she's great. She's great. She was on our last episode, as was Chris Elgie on our last episode. For Holiday Hat. Yeah.
And I totally didn't plan that or anything.
I'm sure.
But yeah, and just other players that I interact with regularly, you know, they'll hit me up on Slack and say, "Hey Tom, you know, what's going on? What's this latest thing you're doing?" And you know, it's just, there's so many wonderful people. They're just so enthusiastic about what we do, and it's just been great to be able to be connected with them.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stacy, you're up next. You know, one of the things, the most intriguing things to me that you've been working on, some data analytics on their. Oh, I froze there a bit. I'm back.
It was a really good one. It was a.
You were pondering.
One of the coolest things that I've seen you do, Stacy, is some data analytics for our customers that run private events, so that you can. will help them improve. I did it again. That will help them improve their educational outcomes. Can you tell us more about that before I freeze again?
Yes, Freezy Ed, I can very much do that. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not going to give away the full Krabby Patty secret formula here, but in essence, we take an amalgamation of information from the back end and match it to certain sets of criteria depending on the ask. Because usually, whenever a customer requests a private range, they want some specifics out of it. A lot of times it does have to do with course mapping. So the easiest way to explain it is when someone completes a range or when they get so far in a range, there are a lot of indicators we can look at to determine how well they performed. And we use a tagging system that includes categories and subcategories that match them back to particular courses in combination with other factors.
Awesome.
So based on those ingredients we get from the range, we can, I guess, create a recipe to recommend particular courses and additional content to supplement those areas of opportunity.
You are so cool. That's so good. Thank you. Mr. Folkens, I have a question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
What's your favorite thing that you've built for SANS ranges? It can be network specific or more generic, but I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think network specific. It was touching on what Hessman said. There was a lot of value for our players and our customers to give them a Windows-based host in the cloud that we manage. A lot of organizations have great security controls and can't always spin up a USB thumb drive that we hand them. So to alleviate that and take that off their plate and to dynamically allow the player to spin that up. And if they mess up the host, we don't care. Just click a button, blow it away, bring it on back, keep learning, keep playing. That was quite a technical feat, but also I think it established a lot of value for NetWars. I'm really proud of that.
I love the architect in you, but it's not just design. You also implement and build and operate and make it all work, whole stack, and scale. It's just incredible. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Let me go back to Stacy, and I'm going to ask you kind of a dual question here. What's your favorite thing about SANS range offerings now? And then I want to pick your brain a little bit. Where would you like to see this stuff headed in the future?
Oh, well, the first one's really easy. Just, I don't know if you can see it, but in my background, obviously I really love video games, just kind of in general. So when you mix that technical element of, having those types of questions and challenges into the realm of something that feels like a game, like you're going to get my dopamine receptors to just fire off, right? For sure. It's more engaging, it's more rewarding, and it's more fun, in my opinion, than taking like a static assessment or something like that. So, and one of the things I really appreciate about the ranges is like the stories that they include or the scenarios. There's always little jokes in there. Like there are particular flags I find that I'm just like, I can't help but laugh at them. And it feels rewarding to get the joke too. So I don't know. I always find myself having a really good time.
One of the things that I tell the team is don't break the fourth wall. We're telling a story in a range. There's a scenario, but sometimes you got to break the fourth wall. You can't not just because of some technical thing or some other thing. So I say, if you must break the fourth wall, break it spectacularly.
And be funny.
And be funny. Make the player laugh and say, that was clever. I like that. It's just a little nod from the game designer to the game player saying, hey, we're with you in this.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're part of the joke, and I like that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
And in terms of where I would like to see it going, I would say I would like to. I know this already exists to some level, but I would like to see more cloud and developer content. I think like a cloud native range for developers would be really nifty. Or even more entry-level ranges like Boot Up CTF, where you have people who don't really have a technical background that can get their start, because we get asked that quite a bit.
Yeah. And, more cloud content and more introductory content. I've got 3 words for you. Holiday Hack Challenge 2023. Okay, I threw a number at the end of it. But this Holiday Hack Challenge is going to have more cloud content than we've ever had. Nice. Including some forensic stuff in the cloud, just saying. And it's going to have more introductory challenges than ever before. So I think you're going to love it. I can't wait. Tom, Stacy, Jared, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing your insight. This was such a fun panel. We got to do this again sometime. Okay?
Absolutely.
But in the meantime,
definitely.
in the meantime, I've got another panel I got to do. So I send you guys back to the green room. Thanks again for joining us. Let's tee up our third panel, or as we call it, the D block. And this is going to be the player's perspective. So if we could bring in Chris and Petter, my next guests. Hey, welcome, guys. I'm glad you're here. Let me just adjust things here to get us rolling. Cool. Let me introduce these fine people to you. Chris Davis and I have worked together for many, many years. He is incredible when it comes to creating amazing range content. I think he is the most productive range developer person on our team. And I tell the team that not to make them feel bad or anything. It's just everybody knows it. I might as well say it, right? Chris churns out so much content for NetWars, for Holiday Hack. It's amazing what this person has built. Some of you who are Holiday Hack players or NetWars players, I could start naming the challenges, but we only have a 13-minute segment here. But if I couldn't even name everything Chris has created in that time frame. He's incredible. His background is really interesting. He used to work as a prison guard. He served his country in the United States Army. He has built cyber ranges. The guy's got great technical chops. And he's here to represent the player's perspective. You might say, well, why is that? Because, well, not only does he build our ranges, he plays everybody's ranges. That's why one of the things that makes him so good is he plays a lot of different ranges and kind of sees what the industry is doing and where it's headed. He's incredibly creative and tireless in his work. Additionally to Chris, we're joined by Petter Sidopoulos. And Petter is a player of NetWars. He's got a lot of great NetWars experience. He is a security enthusiast in the Austin, Texas area. He goes by the hacker handle Checksum. You can see that in his title there. He's been 12 years in cybersecurity. He won a handful of NetWars challenges and CTF challenges. He is a GSE certified person and has 25 other GX certs. You're a busy person, aren't you?
I am.
He's played at least one NetWars competition every year, including the Tournament of Champions, since he started at SANS Pentest Austin in 2016. He really focuses on paying it forward to others in the industry, teaching and mentoring his team on a weekly basis, as well as other people in the industry. Also, Peter was born in what was then Czechoslovakia to a Czech parent and a Greek parent, which explains why he is Checksum with that Greek letter in the sum. So thank you, Petter. I am so glad you're here. Let's start out with Petter. So we've already talked about which ranges you played in and how you did. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what makes them special. What have you particularly liked about them?
Yeah, thanks. So really, if you sit in a live event and you have like you can feel the energy in the air, because a lot of people come there with like, I'm going to win it, and then like so many talented professionals that get together, and then like you see some of the frustrations, and then like somebody doesn't answer the question right, and just like, oh man, so. There have been some very memorable experiences that I had. And, if I can toss one, like on my very first at the Pentest Austin 2016, I did really poorly, actually. I was like, and I was just recently minted OSCP, and I was just like, this is going to be difficult. And I just, I couldn't get privilege escalation where I've seen the password listed in the process on a command line argument, and it was themed after the Lord of the Rings. And it was Dwarf Tosser, and the thing is like still hunting me. And just recently we watched, Lord of the Rings with my kids, and whenever they're tossing Gimli, it's like nobody tosses a dwarf, and I was like, there goes the Dwarf Tosser again. And another funny thing, it was I think Pentest 2018. There was the ICS on top of the core NetWars.
Yeah.
And there were several people that I have become friends with during the NetWars, and that's like picking up friendship that lasts. That's also really cool. We assembled a dream team, and we just came in there because we had like 5 people, including me, and we are holding so many certifications, and number of people won different CTFs. And the first question comes, and it's very simple, and it's like, how many web servers are in the range? And it was a multiple choice question, like level 1, question 1, and we managed to lose all the points you can.
What?
And then eventually we admitted defeat, and came to the instructor in the room, and they're like, oh yeah, sorry about that, we forgot to turn on one of the VMs that had a web server. So and just like, so you just have to come with this right mindset. It's like you're there to have fun and play. I mean, it's a competition, right? But it's having the fun and learning something is very invaluable.
That is really a big focus of the team, is learning objectives. Obviously fun. We got to have fun, but the learning objectives, we want these ranges that we built to fulfill the SANS promise. That is what you experience in SANS offerings, whether it be coursework or range work, you'll be able to apply when you get back to the job. That is the SANS promise. And speaking of the promise of SANS, Chris Davis, when you're developing a challenge for a range, what is your process? I mean, I'm mystified at how you're so productive. How do you get so much done at such high quality so quickly? How do you do it?
Well, that's a good question. I actually have thought about this many times, and there's so many variables involved. It's crazy because, when we're developing, we're trying to develop broad spectrum. A lot of times we're trying to create for the people who are at the top end of the skill level to the very bottom. And most of our audience is middle to lower tier. And so we got to try to balance that. But then once we kind of determined the challenge spread, we take it and we look at, okay, so we want to add in some cyber defense, or depending on what the product is, we might focus in on an area. And then once we've determined that, we're like, okay, we want a web app penetration test type challenge. So what we'll do is we'll say, okay, this is going to be medium level. So what we want to do at this point is make it realistic and relevant, right? We don't want to pick some web app exploit from 10 years ago, because that would offer no value. Typically, we also want to make it custom too, so that you have to, sometimes not, but sometimes we try to make it custom, so you have to actually get in there and actually understand what's going on. You can't just load up an exploit and boom, you're good to go. But then we also try to make it realistic too, because a lot of times in CTF challenges, challenge authors just make like, guess what I'm thinking, and here you got to exploit this and this and this way, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but it's not realistic at all. You're not going to see this in the wild. And so we say, okay, once we've determined those things, then I'm like, okay, web applications, I want to make this as fun as possible. So for me, not only does this benefit the player, but for me, I get way more fun out of this. Like when I make something. So for example, one of my favorites in this is we did Clippy. Clippy was one of the bad guys for one of our tournaments, Microsoft Clippy. And so I was like, okay, the final challenge is going to be a series of injection challenges. I'm like, I could have just delivered a terminal or a web application and just say inject it, and that's it. But I was like, that wouldn't be fun. So I took the time and I made a Clippy animation and I hooked it up to WebSockets. And so as you're talking to Clippy, as if he's the author of The Matrix, you're actually getting him to say things he doesn't want to say by injecting on him. So for me, that was a lot of fun. And so because I had a lot of fun, I think players did too. So that's kind of my process as a whole. I try to make it fun and relevant and realistic.
You really do. And you're a great professional. Sometimes I think you're a big little kid, and sometimes I think you're just one of the most gifted technical people I've ever met, and everything all wrapped together in professionalism, and you're just awesome.
Hey, and if I can follow up on what Chris said from the pure player perspective, for people that work on internal pen testing team for a company, you typically are quite limited in one technology or company runs, right? Yeah. And playing in these ranges, like as Chris mentioned, it's based on real world challenges that somebody at maybe Counter Hack did, or somebody else like, hey, I found this environment and they had this misconfiguration, and it really shows, like, it exposes you to learn a lot more.
It does. Yeah, that's really well put. That is.
We do that all the time at our like. Oftentimes we'll dabble in pen testing, and I'll have to be like, oh wow, this is really cool. I can't believe I found this in the wild. And we're like, we got to put this into a challenge.
One of the things that all of our range designers have in common, as well as all the SANS instructors, is they are practitioners. So Chris does pen testing, and it's great pen testing. And all the other range designers do various security services and consulting, and just like SANS instructors do as well. Now, Petter, I do have another question for you. Now, I'm not trying to talk to the Petter that has 25 SANS certs that has beat all of the ranges and all this kind of stuff. I want to talk to the original Petter, the one that you mentioned back in 2016. It was brand new to cyber, and you're getting your feet wet. What advice would you have for that person? Somebody who hasn't yet experienced a range, but maybe is a little nervous, even shy, and they're like, okay, I'm going to a SANS event. There's going to be a NetWars there, or maybe there's a private NetWars event coming up. My company's doing. I'm scared. I mean, how do I prep? What do I do? What's my mindset?
Yeah, so the mindset is really the key word in here, right? And you need to be, again, as I said, like you're going to be learning something new. You'll be exposed and challenged things you never seen before, never done before. You have internet available. Like when you go to a SANS event and there is networks included, you absolutely have to play because you don't pay anything extra. And yeah, it takes some time away from your evening, but like the atmosphere and the things that you learn, that's one thing. If you feel like really shy, I mean, I can tell you actually, I use the networks and other CTFs to create a second round of interview for my agency, and
nice.
it's like a little practical Linux VM with like a few challenges to do, and you wouldn't believe how many other people are in the same spot of like, oh, a simple buffer overflow. That's everybody should know that. It's like, well, but they don't. Like if you never really did it, or if you don't know what's behind it, you are not alone. Like there will be so many people who are just as scared as you are, and if you don't challenge yourself and then don't take the step into it, then you will just gonna be like wondering what could have been. And it's fun, and like I know I can tell you it is really nice to see your name as number one on the scoreboard.
I'll bet.
Of course, sometimes it gets out of hand, and I've seen another event where the instructors added Chuck Norris, who got maximum score +1.
Oh, I remember that. That was
everybody.
me.
Yeah. So it was really funny. But if you know practice, so this is something like I actually published the blog on WJAI's website, how I went from IT sysadmin to the GSE, and the hands-on, like build your own lab, practice challenges. That is such a key to growing fast, because again, you need to do it. If you're a hands-on person, that skill set, it's use it or lose it, absolutely. And there's so many easy to build, container with vulnerable machines or just virtual machine, build a little network, attack everything, look how it looks on the log side, and that will give you a lot of experience and confidence and help you be better at your job. And
that was a great blog post. Really, really was good.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, I got to say, this is the question I'm most excited to ask in this whole episode, okay? Not just this panel, but the whole episode. You've made some amazing challenges in the past. I mean, for Holiday Hack players, Wanna Cookie, people today come up to me and say, that Wanna Cookie thing was so amazing. I said, that was Chris Davis. But I don't want you to talk about Holiday Hack. That's coming. What was your favorite Net Wars challenge that you've ever created? Was it Clippy? Did you already answer that? Or is there another one? Or what was your second favorite if Clippy was your favorite?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So Clippy was Clippy was one of my personal favorites. There's a few others that were personal favorites, but Clippy was at the end of the game. So only very few people actually got to the point where they could see Clippy in action and get him to inject on him. So for me, that was my personal favorite. Another personal favorite was we did a tournament where we made 100% gamification. Yeah. And so you actually played levels 1 and 2 in a game. But as much as I love gamification, the thing I realized from that is not everybody loves video games. Yes. So it's an important balance between the two. So I think my overall number one favorite challenge in Net Wars specifically would have to be Net Wars tournament, or can we just say Net Wars continuous?
Net Wars generally, continuous is good.
Yeah, I think in continuous, Net Wars Continuous 2 that we developed, I think my favorite challenge in there was a series of web application challenges where you collect power cells. That was a lot of fun for me. I got to do a lot of heavy lifting on that. So
people love that one.
Yeah,
that one's available. That one's still available.
It's still available.
An aliens theme that you built into it, as I recall. So
yes, exactly. Yeah. So again, that was
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a better balance of gamification.
I think it was because we learned, and we're always adapting. One final question, 10 seconds for you, Petter. Do you take hints? Most SANS ranges offers hints. Do you take them?
Yeah.
Do you like them? What's your approach?
Again, if you're there to learn, then absolutely take the hints because there is no need to be frustrated and stuck. I typically don't, but depending on, I won several times and I just play for the fun only. So if I don't know something, then I'll take the hint and, save it for next time and, learn something.
That's good. The hints are there as part of a learning process, right?
Exactly.
And rather than beating your head
there's no shame in taking them, right? Like
No.
you see how many hints people took on the scoreboard, but hey, we studied somewhere, right? Like nobody drops in with, GSC in their hand when they get born.
That's right. And it's not a bad strategy to just take all the hints and learn, right? I mean, you probably won't win, but take the hints. You'll learn, and then you'll win next time, right?
Yeah,
So.
You're winning against yourself, and that's how I see that.
That's right.
If you're like, if you learn something, then you're the winner, regardless of the position on the scoreboard.
It's all about making yourself as good of an InfoSec professional as you can be.
Exactly.
Petter, Chris, thank you for joining us for this panel. This was a delight. It was so good talking with you. And that's going to bring us to the close of this episode. I'd like to thank all of our 7 panelists for sharing their insights, for sharing their ideas, and especially for all their great work in helping us to offer such great SANS range offerings. It is not a one-person show. You can see there's a whole team, and this wasn't even the entire team. There's many, many more people that are working on this. We're constantly evolving and trying to push the envelope to make more compelling range offerings available, stuff that helps you, stuff that fulfills the SANS promise to help you do your job better. Be on the lookout. We've got new range offerings coming. The most immediate one is the SANS Holiday Hack Challenge, which will be coming the second week of December. I saw somebody earlier mention, what's the weather like at the North Pole? I don't know, because Santa's not at the North Pole right now. Where is Santa? Santa's actually in the Pacific Ocean. Well, he's on a set of islands near the Pacific Ocean, in the Pacific Ocean, near the equator. And that's one of the themes of this year's Holiday Hack Challenge. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can go to SANS.org/holidayhack. There you can register to be notified when we launch in December. Also, you can play the previous year's challenges. We have, we just talked about all this range stuff. We have 3 years of SANS Holiday Hack Challenge running, available for you now, so you can practice the 2022 version, the 2021 version, the 2020 version, as me and my team finish working with Santa Claus and the elves, the 2023 version. And the truth is, actually, I started working a couple weeks ago on the 2024 version, because these things take us more than a year to produce. Also, next year, we're going to have new versions of NetWars Tournament. The core NetWars Tournament is currently version 9. Next year, we're going to have core NetWars Tournament 10. It's pretty exciting. So again, thank you to the team. Also, I'd like to thank the Wait Just an Infosec team for hosting this event and for taking care of us all. And remember, you can learn more about any of these range offerings by going to the URLs that the team has provided to you here: SANS.org/cyberranges, SANS.org/private ranges, and so forth. So thank you again. Oh, and then of course, SANS.org/holidayhack. So this is Ed Skoudis signing out. Thank you for joining this episode of Wait Just an Infosec.
You may have heard of SANS NetWars before, but what exactly is it? Well, let's find out. NetWars is really about the application of hands-on cybersecurity training. With challenges in pen testing, cyber defense, digital forensics, and incident response, you'll walk away with real-world experiences on how to handle various situations. Oh yeah, did we mention? NetWars Core version 9 is here. With challenges to test all of your cybersecurity skills, this browser-based cyber range from SANS is unlike anything you've experienced before. Join the tens of thousands who have competed in SANS NetWars. Visit SANS.org/NetWars to learn more.